Alright, so a question I've been getting a lot is what actually happened to Sparkle and Gallagher at the end of 2.2? What actually happened with these characters? Gallagher was revealed to maybe be the big bad villain of 2.1 with the ending, but I don't think anyone really believed that, and then it turns out he's actually a good guy. But he follows the Enigmata, and he's a history fictionologist, which I just talked about in my Eons video, but we're going to be breaking that down, and what's going on with him, as well as Sparkle, because she didn't really do anything in 2.2, she kind of just gave out those buttons. Is her story done in Penacony? Highly unlikely, but let's break it down. Let's start with Gallagher because he's a little easier to talk about and we know much more about him. We learn that he's a good guy, but at the same time, he's the follower of the Enigmata. How can you be a friend of somebody if his only purpose in life is to be an enemy of anyone that wants to know the truth? All the Eons really have rivals with each other, like Lana the Hunt and Abundance. They're kind of like at odds, they're rivals. Tazeroth and Ouroboros, and the Enigmata is sort of like the rival or opposition of Naus or News of Erudition, the Eon of Intelligence. Mythos of Enigmata wants to construe history texts, research, and make things harder to decipher and figure out. It's like the opposite of doing research for knowledge. They want to construe history and the truth. And he even had a line saying that he wants to add something to the databank on the Express. I would never let a history fictionologist near our databanks, by the way. But there's actually a positive to this in having someone like this in Penacony. You see, Sunday, we went over this in many videos recently, that he's a control freak, he follows the path of order, and that is the entire point. Everything that Sunday does, his goals, his beliefs, are all based from the past events to dictate the future. Right before our first boss battle at Sunday, we went through that whole montage of Penacony's history of blood and war, conflict, family members betraying each other. Sunday truly believes that establishing complete order in Penacony is the only way. So in a way, having somebody like Gallagher is kind of nice in this situation. He's the opposite of that. Because history fictionals obscure the past and change it, he is essentially stopping people from being stuck in the past, which then prevents people from trying to repeat it. The future then will become a little bit more unpredictable, but it'll be a little bit more organic. People won't be obsessing about the past to try to control what might be the future. You do not want history to repeat itself, of course, but sometimes, if that history is there, you can't help but obsess over it. And to make this a little deep, that's kind of like in our own real world too. Every time there's a conflict in our own real world, people already turn to World War III. World War III, you hear that a lot. That is because people always reference what was. But for Penacony, it is probably genuinely a little bit more healthy to actually have a little bit of a misconception about the past so that you don't obsess and make those same mistakes. Trying too hard to correct the past can sometimes make things worse. We've seen this in so many different stories, movies, books, and even in real life. And we know that not every pathstrider of the same path is the same type of individual. People that are tampering with history and people's hard work and research, like to actually go and tamper with it, to not only remove information or swap out different texts, make it harder to decipher. That is, there's no other way to put it, that's like a real dick move to do. Like, that totally sucks. Like taking a history book and messing with it to make it harder to understand, or straight up swapping out different bits of information is like totally just not cool. But obviously we know that Gallagher was not evil, he was not bad, and he had good intentions. He's the one that got us here in the first place, and he was truly a friend to the watchmaker. I don't think he necessarily wanted to kill or eradicate the truth, but create a mystery and possibilities for the future, for Penacony, so it can move forward unbiasedly. I guess that's the only way I can interpret his motives and him being a member of the Enigmata. Plus, we're not talking about the Eon of Aha, which we'll talk about in a second with Sparkle. The Eon of Elation, the mass fools, and Aha just do things for the sake of doing things because it's funny. They have no rhyme or reason. It's hard to pinpoint their motives. But Mythos and the Enigmata doesn't seem to be just doing it for shits and giggles, for lack of a better word. So if they are spreading misinformation, I'm sure there's a good reason. I'm sure there's a reason they feel is necessary for the greater good. Anyone with kids would know this, but sometimes lying is necessary and it's the right thing to do. Plus, with the help of the Enigmata, it was easier to keep the Watchmaker's legacy and secrets a little bit more under wraps and protected from the family. Now as for Sparkle, this is a hard one now, because this is just guesswork to me. I can't really make much educated guesses on this because the Masked Fools and Elation, Aha, this Eon is so unpredictable that it's nuts. They made a worm and emanator, blew up part of the Astral Express, they've been following us around. This Eon even convinced a bunch of the Annihilation Gang members, not the Everflame Mansion but a different branch of the Annihilation Gang, to kill and try to assassinate IX of Nihility. Under a disguise, Aha convinced these guys, hey, you want to impress Nanook of Destruction, go kill IX. That Eon's weak and is basically just a sad, pouting, depressed Eon over there that doesn't interact with anything. And because this Eon doesn't interact, no one knows much about it, so Aha was able to convince the Annihilation Gang to go try to kill it. And needless to say, no one ever saw them again. This Eon is just a troll. I know people were expecting like a big explosion from Sparkle, but there is still a chapter coming in 2.3 with the IPC, so that's not out of the question yet. We had that scene at the beginning of 2.2 where she was handing out buttons disguised as Robin. She could be trying to assist Aventurine and the IPC in their future endeavors to try to reclaim Penacony, or she could really just be playing both sides and wants to see how this plays out. A follower of the Elation is supposed to be filled with red herrings and shrouded in mystery. You can never quite pinpoint their motives. That's the whole point of this Eon. There's no real rhyme or reason for what they do. They just do things because it's life's life, and it's all for laughter. It's all a big joke anyway. I guess what's funny about Sparkle and Aha is that whether we get a really big cutscene or storyline with Sparkle in 2.3 when that comes out, or it's really anticlimactic, any way you slice it and any way they go about it really just fits that Eon's agenda anyway. These guys play in the background, even more so than the Stellaron Hunters. And Sparkle did play a major part, setting up Aventurine's story, and they're going to play the biggest role in 2.3. Being in Penacony to literally just enjoy the chaos totally fits this Eon. But I do understand people's frustration because having this character set up with kind of no payoff wouldn't be a cool thing. I would get people's frustration, but as for if she'll actually show up to play a big part in 2.3, I think it's very likely. But just keep your expectations realistic. Anything can happen when it comes to Aha and the Masked Fools. Just remember that. The entire point of Elation is to troll and subvert expectations. That's the whole point of this Eon. And anyway, if you think it's going to be underwhelming, it might just blow up in your face. And if you think there's going to be some crazy big thing to happen, it might be really underwhelming. That is the whole point of this Eon and its whole existence. But I do hope this video cleared up about Gallagher and Sparkle. I know a lot of you had a lot of questions about these two characters because it seems a little bit confusing. What does it truly mean to be a history fictionalist? And for Sparkle, where the hell was she? Hopefully this clears it up. Hopefully 2.3 clears up even more of this stuff about Sparkle. Hope this was helpful. Like and subscribe, help grow the channel. I really do appreciate y'all watching this far, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.